So Scott, tell us about your journey.
My journey? Well, that's a very open-ended question, but so look, I started playing music as a kid, probably, I reckon, 5 years old. I started learning the cornet, which is a brass band version of the trumpet. Did that right through school, played guitar through primary school, had a fantastic teacher in primary school, Mr. Page, who taught me how to play guitar. And just was always playing music, played in brass bands, played in, different ensembles, did classical guitar. And so, just had always played music, and then started writing songs in my later teenage years, and then had a friend suggest I do a record. I hadn't really thought about it, but thought, I'll do that, and made an album, and then thought, well, I may as well do some gigs to try to sell some. Did that, sold a lot of that first record, and I don't know, just things happened, I think a lot of the secret of life is having a crack at stuff, and then one thing leads to the next, leads to the next, leads to the next.
Awesome, thank you so much. Our next question is, NAIDOC Week is upcoming, and we're wondering what this year's theme, 50 Years of Deadly, means to you personally.
Yeah, look, it's a really deep one, isn't it? 50 Years of Deadly. I mean, you got to understand, 50 years ago, so where are we now? 2026. So 50 years ago, it's 1976, and, Australia was such a different place. It's funny, like, for those who have seen me play, that every time I stand up on stage, I sing a song called Solid Rock, which is an iconic Aussie rock song written by Shane Howard, released in his band Goanna in 1982. Now, I was fortunate enough to do a cover of that 10 years ago, and Shane sang it on my record with me, which was huge for my career at the time. Really, it's the reason I got a record deal and got me, it changed my life, him singing that classic song on my record. But so I've often thought about that song, given that it's such a great song that's changed my life, but also it's still to this day is my favourite song. And when you talk to Shane, 1982, Australia was so different. Now, I was too young to remember it, but he will tell you that, it was a very racist. I mean, I still truly believe Australia is a very racist country in a lot of ways, but man, 40 or whatever years ago, it was way more racist. And so for Aboriginal people, hearing a song like Solid Rock on the radio for the first time is when you're hearing didgeridoo on the radio for the first time, and all of these things that we just accept as commonplace now. And so 50 years of Deadly, it's sort of, NAIDOC 50 years ago was this thing that I can't even imagine how hard they had to push and struggle, and the fight of our elders has been real, and to keep positive and deadly, and just because that word deadly, that means good, excited, great.
So at JDC, we're committed to reconciliation. How do you see the celebration of NAIDOC Week as an extension of this?
Yeah, look, I would love to see a situation in Australia where our school communities understand the place of importance they hold within the broader community. So when we look at organisations and groups that can really sway community attitudes, we're talking about schools, and we're talking about probably sports clubs as well. One of the things I'm really passionate about is that Australia is a 65,000-year-old country. We're the oldest, Aboriginal culture is the oldest continuous living culture in the world. There's not a group of people that's lived anywhere for as long as Aboriginal people have lived in Australia. So what that means is we are living in the oldest country there is. And if you really believe that, the reality is if you live in Australia and you call Australia home, you are a 65,000-year-old Australian, because it's the greatest country in the world. We all get to share it. We're all family living here together. Even if you're not Aboriginal, think of it this way. You've been adopted into the fabric of this incredible story. And so you get to share in the journey of it. And so what I'd love to see is a situation where everyday Australians, people at John 23rd, for example, understand that as a 65,000-year-old Australian community, you celebrate First Nations culture, story, journey in everything you do every day. You don't just wheel it out for a week during NAIDOC Week and then put it away at the end of the week like Christmas decorations under the stairs on January the 1st, if I could be that honest. But there's always more we can do. So, I would love to see not just JTC but John 23rd, but I'd love to see all schools embrace who they are as 65,000-year-old communities.
You said something that stuck out to me before about even if you're not Aboriginal, you can be taken into the fold of the fabric. And I guess just to elaborate on that, I wanted to ask you why, in your opinion, is it important for all Australians to embrace First Nations cultures?
Well, absolutely. And here's the deal, right? Australia's the best country in the world. And I'm not saying that because I'm some dumb bogan who's like, yeah, Australia. You know, like, what makes it the best country in the world? Let's be pragmatic here. What makes Australia the best country in the world is we have always welcomed everyone that ever came to Australia, more than any other nation. I mean, you think about it, right? Go to Darwin today and you will see there's a lot of Asian bloodlines through the Aboriginal families there, because for generations the Asian sea traders who came here were welcomed as family. They intermarried. Over there where you are in the west, there's a lot of little blonde Aboriginal Noongar children, because for generations the Dutch sea traders were welcomed as family when they came out. Like, everyone who's ever come here was always welcome. My father's family came to Australia in 1823, convicts from Scotland, caught stealing fruit. And, you know, I was thinking about my great-great-grandfather who, you know, when he came here 6 generations back, he was a 15-year-old kid. So he finishes his sentence, he's 22, 23. And at that stage, he has a choice. Do I go back to England where I'm a Scottish thief and they hate me? Or do I stay here and have another chance? And 6 generations later, I've got the best life ever because this country welcomed my family. And sometimes you'll hear these uneducated bogans who have got this mentality of, well, I'm a real Australian because I've been here 6 generations and you've only been here 2 generations, you're not as Australian as me. It's garbage. If you live here and you call Australia home, you are no less Australian than I am as an Aboriginal man, because the thing that makes this the best country in the world is that we've always welcomed anyone that ever came here.
There are still so many inequities for First Nation people, despite efforts towards reconciliation. Can you think of any ways that we as a school can actively respond?
Yeah, look, I just think it comes back to, I know it sounds really naive and simplistic, but I think a lot of it comes back to how you identify. You know, so if your school can really truly understand that you're a 65,000-year-old community and you've been adopted in, and I often want to talk about this to groups of teachers or to corporate audiences, I talk about it in the context of, as a kid when I grew up, my high school years weren't amazing in the sense that my family was disintegrating, my father was an alcoholic and things were unraveling, and I used to be really jealous of the Greek kids at my school, because they'd come back after Easter, for example, and they'd tell these stories of, you know, oh, we had Greek Easter, and all the relatives came over, the grandparents and the cousins and the aunties and the uncles. I imagined their family was like a Christmas tree. The star on top, that was their grandparents. They had all the privilege and the respect. They'd earned that through their wisdom and their years and who they were and their birthright. And then up top, you had the decorations. That's the aunties and uncles. And similarly, they've earned that space. Down the bottom corner, you got the rat bag cousins. But they're all on the tree, right? That's who we are as a nation. Our Aboriginal elders are the star on top. They've been given that space because of who they are, their bloodlines and their wisdom and their privilege, right? And then depending on who you are and the work you've done, you know, you've got different spaces on the tree. You might not be Aboriginal, but you might have a spot right up the top of the tree because you've done a lot of the work and you understand who you are generationally. You've learned and you've got educated wisdom and understanding. You know, you might be a racist scumbag, but you're still on the tree. You're just down in the bottom corner. If we can understand who we are on the tree as a nation, what it does is it changes the way that we view everything, changes the way we do things, it changes the care that we have for healthcare, changes the care we have for education stats. You know, the truth of it is when you look at, say, an article on the front page of the West Australian about Aboriginal crime in Alice Springs, and then you read the online comments of all these vitriolic, hate-filled people with their racist comments, right? And trust me when I tell you that happens. If those people making those racist comments understood who they were generationally, they wouldn't write that stuff. Because as humans, we have this mentality, I want grace and mercy for myself and my family, and I want justice for everyone else. And if people in Australia, just the everyday, the members of your community, your parent community, if they understood who they were generationally, that they were on the tree, they wouldn't be looking at those stats going, these terrible people, blah, 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 blah. They'd be going, oh my gosh, that's so sad. How did that happen? We've got to change the way we see each other, because the truth of it is, we are all family living here together.
What will you be doing this year for NAIDOC Week? Are you going to be doing any performances?
Yeah, I'm performing at Uluru at the resort, the Sails in the Desert Resort at Uluru, which it'll be tough. I don't know, I'm going to suffer for Jesus out there. It's going to be really difficult. At a 5-star resort at Uluru, pretty much my favourite place in the world. Yeah. So think of me, pray for me.
Sounds amazing.
That sounds incredible.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's going to be good. It's going to be real deadly.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Right.
Thank you so much for doing this interview with us.
Yeah,
No
thank
worries,
you for
guys.
your time.
I hope it's helpful.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
very.
Very insightful.
No worries.